Daniel and Emily, ready to start our first flipped lesson, chapter 4-6, multiplying fractions. Here we go. We're going to learn to multiply fractions and mixed numbers today. Here are some of the key concepts. Helpful tips to consider before multiplying fractions and mixed numbers. 1. Turn all whole numbers and mixed numbers into improper fractions. Multiply straight across. Simplify. Pause the video and copy this into your notes. Let's move on to example 1. Example 1 is 1/2 times 1/3. This is a really easy problem. Remember what I said? Multiply your numerators by your denominators. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 3 is 6. Now, I always check to see if I'm in simplest form. When I have a 1, I'm done. That's in simplest form. Now, make sure that you're pausing the video and copying down the things that I write in your notes. I will be checking in class. Did you hear that, everyone? Now, pause the video again and try example number 2. All right, let's see if you were right. Take our top numerators, multiply them by each other, and then our bottom denominators, multiply them by each other. 1 times 1 is 1. 8 times 9 is 72. I have a 1, so I'm done. I bet all of you got that right. So now let's take a look at example 3. In example 3, we have a whole number and a negative number. So there's two things we have to remember. The first thing we have to remember is that when we have a whole number, we just put 1 as our denominator. So I'm going to do that right now. 2 over 1. Now I'm going to times that by -3/4. So I wrote my problem. Now I'm going to rewrite it so that I have 2 times a -3 on the top and 1 times 4 on the bottom. 2 times a -3, we have to remember our integer rules, is going to be a -6 because a positive times a negative is a negative, and 1 times 4 is 4. Now I notice that I have an improper fraction. I can do this one of two ways. I can change it to a mixed number and then reduce, or I can reduce and then change it to a mixed number. I like to do it that way, so that's the way I'm going to do it, but either way is okay. I know that I have a 6 and a 4, they're both even, so I can divide by 2 over 2, and I get -3 on the top and 2 on the bottom. Now, in order to change this to a mixed number, I put my -3 on the inside and my 2 on the outside. 2 goes into -3 -1 time. That's 2 with 1 left over. I write my remainder on the top and my 2 on the bottom. And there's my final answer. So let's take a look at example 4. Pause the video and try this one on your own. Excuse me, let's see what you did and how well you did. So remember, the first step is to rewrite my problem, putting a 6, my whole number, over 1, and multiplying it by -1/3. So now I take that 6 times -1 on the top, 1 times 3 on the bottom. 6 times -1 is -6. 1 times 3 is 3. Now, I can reduce this one by dividing by 2, and I would get 3 over 1 on the top. I'm sorry, I would divide by 3, my mistake, and I would get 2 over 1 on top. Or I can just say -6 divided by 3 is the same as negative 2. That make sense to you? This example has a fraction multiplied by a negative fraction. And once again, we have to remember our integer rules. So here we go. 2 times negative 3 on the top, 7 times 8 on the bottom. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. 7 times 8 is 28. I'm sorry, it's not 28. It's 56. Cross that out. I was looking at my reduced answer. Negative 6 over 56. When I divide by 2, I get negative 3, and then 56 divided by 2 is 28. That's where I got my 28. I jumped ahead of myself. So now, here's example 6. I want you to pause the video and try it on your own. All right, so let's see if you were right. So we take 3 times negative 4 on the top and 12 times 5 on the bottom. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. 12 times 5 is 60. Now, I know the biggest number I can divide both these by is 12. Negative 12 divided by 12 is negative 1. 60 divided by 12 is 5. I have a 1, so I'm done. There's my final answer. How'd you do? Looking at example 7, it steps it up a little bit more. This one has a mixed number. And if you remember, in order to change a mixed number to an improper fraction, I take my denominator, I'm going to abbreviate, times my whole number, and then I add my numerator. So let's look at this one. So I'm going to rewrite my problem so that I have an improper fraction for my mixed number. So the first thing I do is I write my 1. I write my 1/2 times, now I have to take this and I have to go 5 times 4, 5 is my denominator, times 4 my whole number, that's 20, plus my numerator 2, so that's 22 on the top, and my denominator stays the same. So now I'm going to go 1 times 22 on the top, and 2 times 5 on the bottom. I get 22 over 10. So now I need to change that back to a mixed number. And remember, I divide 10. Whoops, I messed up again. Let's try that again. 22 on the inside, 10 on the outside. 10 goes into 22 2 times, that's 20, with 2 left over. 2/10. Well, I can reduce that. 2 is my whole number. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Now I could have also done 22/10 and made it 11/5 and then done the same thing. Either way, whichever way you find first works. Now I want you to pause the video and try example 8 on your own. Okay, here we go. So we take 1/3 times, now I have to take that 6 6/7 and rewrite it as an improper fraction. So I do 6 times 7 is 42 plus 6 is 48. So we have 48 sevenths. Now, take my 1 times 48 and my 3 times 7. 1 times 48 is 48. 3 times 7 is 21. Now, I know that both of these have a 3 in them, so I'm going to divide by 3. 48 divided by 3 is 16. 21 divided by 3 is 7. That's improper, so I need to divide 16 on the inside, 7 on the outside. 7 goes into 16 twice. That's 14. Subtract. My final answer is 2 2/7. There you go. Now, you have your OYO problems. That stands for on your own. You're going to try these 3 problems in your notes and bring them to class. See if you can catch the spelling error. I'll be checking your notes and your on your own problems in class tomorrow. Have a good night.